Sardinia versus Puglia. On the left, a stone tower on a dry plain. On the right, a bright white cone of a cottage. One is a fortress. The other looks like a fairy tale. Visually, they share almost nothing. They are separated by 3,000 years. The builders never met and never shared a language. Yet they are built on the exact same architectural physics. To understand why, we have to look at the ground. Both of these places are stony and short of timber. Before a farming family can plant a crop, they must dig the loose rock out of the earth. You end up standing in a pile of stone before you own a single beam of wood. The landscape forces a single problem. How do you roof a room using nothing but the rock you just dug up, with zero timber to lay across the top? Both cultures were cornered by the same geography. They found the same structural answer. The solution is a technique called corbelling. Watch how it works. You lay a ring of stone. Then the next ring just a little further in. Each layer leans inward over the empty space below. Ring after ring, the walls step toward each other until the gap is small enough to seal with a closing stone. Gravity locks it shut. There is no mortar in the joints. There is no timber spanning the gap. There is no true arch. The entire roof holds itself up purely by its own weight. That manipulation of gravity is the underlying spine of both the ancient tower and the modern cottage. The Sardinian tower is called a Nuraghi. These were built between 1800 and 1100 BCE, 1,000 years before the Caesars. Around 7,000 of these massive towers still stand across the island. They were built by the Nuraghic people, a civilization that left no deciphered writing and whose name we can barely confirm. The Puglian cottage is called a Trullo. By comparison, it is young. Most standing today were built between the 17th and 19th centuries. These were never intended to be monuments. A farming family cleared a limestone field, stacked the rock, and built a home. This is a gap in history wider than the lifespan of most nations. But if we look inside the walls, the two structures rhyme. Inside the walls, the hidden geometry is identical. Trace the line of the ceiling across both sections. The inward stepping corbel course is mathematically the same move. But the two cultures used that same math for opposite outcomes. The Nuraghi uses the corbel for mass. It uses huge blocks and a rubble core to create an immovable fortress, 12 meters across and built to be permanent. The Trullo uses that geometry for lightness. It is a thin cone of limestone slabs. Local legend says they were kept mortarless so a family could dismantle the roof in an afternoon to avoid attacks on permanent dwellings. One place used these physics to build an immovable object. The other used them to build a roof that could vanish. If you like tracing one architectural idea into two different worlds, follow along for the next one. We know what a Trullo is for. It is a practical, rural shelter, whitewashed, decorated, and still inhabited today. The drystone walling technique in Puglia is a living craft, recognized by UNESCO as part of the heritage of humanity. The Nuraghi is more difficult to read. We are still arguing over its purpose. Some look like fortresses. Others set at the center of villages full of grinding stones and pottery. A few even align with the solstice sunrise. Modern scholars suggest they were fortress homes, but without a single written sentence from the Nuraghic people, we are left with nothing but the silent geometry of the stone. One tradition is a mystery you can only visit. The other is a home you can still live in. Without communicating, both cultures mastered zero-cement, circular construction. They used field stones with no carbon baked into the joints. Because there is no mortar, the materials were inherently reusable. Trulli could be unbuilt and relaid. Blocks from the Nuraghi were carried off for centuries to build later villages. There is a catch, however. Zero-carbon construction required a staggering amount of human labor. But the sustainable architecture we look for today was standing on these two Italian plains thousands of years ago. Engineering did not separate the Bronze Age fortress from the farmer's cottage. Their difference lay in why they were built. Sardinia pointed the corbel at permanence to outlast time. Puglia pointed it at the harvest to shelter a family. This gravity-held trick appears again on the far Atlantic edge of Ireland. The beehive huts and the Gallerist oratory use the same mortarless corbel, and they have kept the rain out for over 1,000 years. That's next. For now, would you rather stand inside a 3,000-year-old mystery or a living cottage? And where else have you seen walls built with nothing but gravity?